The power of peer pressure. How to harness its positive influence and resist its negative pull. Whether we like to admit it or not, we are all influenced by the people around us. And while this can be a good thing, it can also be a bad thing if we allow ourselves to be pressured into doing things that we don't want to do. As employees, we often find ourselves in situations where we feel pressure from our colleagues or superiors to act or behave in a certain way. Maybe it's the pressure to meet a deadline or achieve a certain goal. Maybe it's the pressure to conform to the group's values or expectations. Whatever the situation, it's important to remember that we always have a choice. Peer pressure can be a powerful force, but it's important to recognize that we are ultimately in control of our own decisions. We can choose to go along with the crowd, or we can choose to stand up for what we believe in. We can choose to follow the rules, or we can choose to question them. We can choose to take the easy way out, or we can choose to take the road less traveled. It's important to remember that our choices have consequences. If we give in to peer pressure and do something that goes against our values or beliefs, we may end up regretting our decision later on. On the other hand, if we stand up for what we believe in and make choices that align with our values, we are more likely to feel fulfilled and satisfied with our lives. So how can we resist the pressure to conform and make choices that align with our values? Here are a few strategies that you can use. 1. Know your values. The first step in resisting peer pressure is to know what you stand for. Take some time to reflect on your values and beliefs, and think about the kinds of situations where you might feel pressure to compromise those values. When you know what's important to you, it's easier to make decisions that align with your values. 2. Find a support system. It's much easier to resist peer pressure when you have people in your life who support you and encourage you to be true to yourself. Look for people who share your values and who will support you in making the right choices, even if they go against the norm. 3. Practice saying no. It can be difficult to say no when we feel pressure to conform, but it's an important skill to develop. Practice saying no in low-stakes situations so that you're prepared when a higher-stakes situation arises. Remember that saying no doesn't have to be confrontational or aggressive. You can simply say, "I'm not comfortable with that," or "That's not something I'm interested in." 4. Be aware of your emotions. Peer pressure can be especially difficult to resist when we're feeling vulnerable or emotional. Take some time to check in with yourself and be aware of your emotions. If you're feeling upset, anxious, or stressed, it's important to take a step back and think before you make a decision. 5. Take responsibility for your choices. Ultimately, the only person responsible for your choices is you. It's important to take ownership of your decisions and their consequences, even if those consequences are negative. When we take responsibility for our choices, we're more likely to learn from them and make better choices in the future. Remember, peer pressure is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to control us. We are all capable of making choices that align with our values and beliefs, even in the face of pressure from others. By knowing our values, finding a support system, practicing saying no, being aware of our emotions, and taking responsibility for our choices, we can resist the pressure to conform and make decisions that we can be proud of. It's also important to remember that peer pressure can work in positive ways as well. When we surround ourselves with people who share our values and goals, we can be motivated to work harder and achieve more. We can be inspired by our colleagues' successes and learn from their achievements. So, while we should be aware of the negative aspects of peer pressure, we should also be open to the positive ways in which it can influence us. As employees, we all have a role to play in creating a workplace culture that values individuality and diversity of thought. When we respect each other's differences and allow people to be true to themselves, we create an environment where everyone can thrive. We should encourage each other to make choices that align with our values, even if those choices are different from our own. So, in conclusion, I want to encourage each of you to resist the pressure to conform and make choices that align with your values and beliefs. Remember that you are in control of your own decisions and that your choices have consequences. Seek out a support system, practice saying no, be aware of your emotions, and take responsibility for your choices. And finally, let's work together to create a workplace culture that values individuality and diversity of thought. By doing so, we can create a workplace where everyone can thrive and achieve their full potential.